Hello there, GM Lurch Lurchington here with another episode of Star Wars Showdown at Iceball Station. With me as usual are our players and their characters. The Bendu is Narset Jinn.
O's.
Dan is Captain Warren Mavithal.
Hey.
David is Master Zavik Silverstar.
Hey, y'all.
And as usual, our host Kyle as Zeef.
Hello there.
Gentlemen, if you're ready to roll Destiny, let's see if the Force is with us. We got a dark side. We got a dark side. We got a light side.
Yes.
At where I'm going.
In
Two
the
lights and
tracking
a dark?
sheet.
Or two darks and a light, I mean.
Yes, 2 darks and a light. And 2 more lights from Narset Jinn. 3 lights and 2 darks. Force is certainly with us tonight. Would you say, Dave, Dan?
Oh, I said coming in clutch.
Yep.
Save of
Just
the day.
tipping the scale. Just tipping the scale.
Yeah.
And for that, we're going to start with Knight Jinn.
Nice.
Over on the windward side of the island. It's the morning after you took the first leg of your climb and learned of how the Salvax singled themselves out from among all the crabs of the bottom of the sea and made their way up here to the land where they, looked ever upward and began to live their life. And now you're going to be making the climb up to the top of the volcano.
Which is the icy part, right?
Yep, you're going to go up this...
Or is this a different mountain?
It's the reverse of the way you came, plus a little bit extra from where you came on to go up to the peak. So you're going to go up first, the steep slope. The last bit you came down was a very steep slope, and you made some foothills. And we're going to get to it in a minute when you're at the bottom of it in character. You know what I mean? So in the morning, Quintera, make sure that you're geared up with some climbing harnesses and North Space jacket instead of your big fluffy coat. It's still providing the same sort of removal of setbacks from the cold. It's just not a huge, ridiculous monstrosity because she realizes that the first part of your climb is going to be pretty much straight up out of the village. After you went across the glacier, you came right down that steep slope and you made some some platforms for the walker to use as, foot pads to get down. But for you to make it up, it's going to be on a much larger scale, sort of. So the first leg of your climb for this day on your way up the volcano will be there. But it's going to take a couple of days, probably, on foot to make it up to the top of the volcano, because it took you 2 days in the walker to walk down from where you came over sort of the other side. And that wasn't all the way up at the peak. So you're going to make it across the glacier and then finally ascend the peak. So it'll probably take a couple of days. And Tara realizes this. So she's given you some rations as well and things like that, because she doesn't know if you're going to be able to catch up with the walker, overnight, or if you're going to have to walk the whole way with the shaman. She expects that if that's what's required, that's probably what you're going to do. So she packs you a couple of days worth of rations and whatnot for you to carry as well in a bag and stuff.
Is it vertical enough that I need spiky ice shoes and pickaxes sort of shit?
She has that kind of stuff in here because you've already spent Destiny points previously to make sure she's got gear here in the walker. So she's got climbing gear, and that's what she's offered to set you up with, as well as sort of like a North Space jacket instead of your big firm monstrosity. Like I said, so you'll be suited up to climb up this ice wall if that's what you need to do, barring force acrobatics or whatever. So she gets you set up for that, and then says that she'll be following along behind you in the walker, and you can calm if necessary, but she'll hang back so that she doesn't interfere. But she's going to follow you back also, because the race is coming up in a couple of days. She says you should make the peak just in time for us to watch it from the mountaintop.
On top of the hill.
Before we make it back in the walker, actually.
Cool.
So good luck. And she gives you a kiss on the cheek
We'll watch.
before she shoos you off.
Ooh.
Yeah, she says exactly. We'll get to watch the club win the race, and Master Silver Star will have handled the remnant by the time we get back, I'm sure. And then, she sends you to go deal with the shaman, and she gets the walker ready to get out of there as well. Your 2 Sherpas are staying behind, and you've picked up 2 new Sherpas. We're going to go over to the other village to take a look what Crab Drogo's got going on, and then come back, just as your 2 Sherpas are staying here, so that the one who was already
The younger one.
can learn about the way they do things back at home. Exactly.
The
From
2
older
new
one.
Sherpas, is it their first time going to the city?
Yeah, it is.
So these are Sherpas who do not necessarily know the route.
Yeah, but they're going to be hanging back and following the
Intera
route
does.
that.
Well, I mean, sure, I'm not saying it's like this is a problem.
going
I'm just
with
like,
Intera.
interesting. The Sherpas are going, and they've never done it before. Like, usually
Yeah,
the
they're
Sherpas
kinda
are like
making
all
a new
experienced, you know? Like,
No,
cool.
they realize that they're doing sort of a new thing too. So they've got
I like it.
their own situation going on over by the Longhouse to get ready for this climb. Like, because here's the thing: Crab Drogo and his people went over the mountain, but nobody's really come back except this Sherpa and this other crab just came back. So now they're going to send 2 more crabs over and see what happened. You know what I mean? And if
Hell
these
yeah.
2 guys come back with a story, maybe they'll start to listen. So they're going to send 2 more crabs because 2 crabs have come back.
The way ants work.
And they can't send Quintera back on her own because 2 crabs came with her. And that would, they're not going to make a problem for Crab Drogo, even though, like, he left. You know what I mean? Like, it sucks that him and all those crabs left, and everything sucks here, but they're not going to make a problem by breaking his word to Quintera.
Sure.
That wouldn't be very Salvax of them, after all. So, they're going to send 2 Sherpas back with her, but they're going to be following you 2. So they shouldn't have any problems, hopefully, because you and the shaman are going to, make the path for them.
I was gonna say my athletics skills pretty high, so I'm gonna be
Leaning on that for a
Banking
lot of
on
the
that.
cross country, and that's
at least
fine.
for the up part, and then
Yeah.
same with force enhance because I can use force leap as a maneuver.
That's why you're the one who's making this cross country journey, because you've got a character who's got the ability to do all these kind of things now that you've spent the XP to unlock that kind of stuff. Yeah, man. So you're going to meet with the shaman to start, and he's in the village and not over in his hut when you come down. He looks better than he did yesterday because you remoltenified the braziers
Like,
in his
yeah.
hut, and he looks a little steamed this morning, and like a little just a touch pinker, maybe
Oh,
in the shell
not
than he
angry.
was yesterday. Yeah, he comes over and looks at you, and rumbles and clacks at you. But you understand Savex now, so he's asking if you're.
Are you ready to go then? To continue the climb?
Narset tightens the straps of her backpack and sort of like presses her feet into the floor now that she has sort of like glacial like ice pick, like the ice pick boots, almost like what
Yep.
people would wear when they're climbing trees. And then she takes her refurbished staff and like clicks it on the ground and says and nods approvingly, like yes, ready to go, but also like good morning.
He's got his own staff, which is about 2.5 times as long as yours. Just suitable because of his size. You notice now that he's like standing fully upright and in the light, and he's got a cape over him of the Ravnak hide.
Sounds like a badass.
And he nods up and down and he says,
You look ready to make the climb. The Salvax lived here on the beach for a few generations. Many, many hundreds of your years. We expanded to fill all this land.
and he gestures around the tiny inlet where probably all of the crabs over in Crabtown could like live, but like there's not, even though they're only part of the town over there, like there's not enough room for all of those crabs to come back here. Even if they did, like they would fill up like all around this little inlet where these guys are.
I appreciate you stating 100 of my years, insinuating that you've started to come to terms with the idea that time is a little different for us.
He nods and says,
I contemplated it overnight and realized there was a longer gap between the beginning for me and your own beginning.
he says,
But you're ready to make the climb. Among the crabs here on the beach, there were, as always, Salvat, who looked upward.
and he gestures towards the top of the volcano.
Salvax had taught us how to draw fire from within, and now he looked upward, always towards a greater source. Crabs journeyed from the village, and many tried for the peak, and many died. But finally, Salvax came back and told us of another ocean at the top.
And he gestures out towards the inlet and the seas beyond.
We will climb, and I will tell you of this on the way.
So he leads you out towards the edge of the village. If you have any questions about this, you can ask them and make some rolls for some more information right now. Otherwise, he's just going to continue on later after you make some checks. But he's leading you, now towards the big slope at the back of the village here that you're going to have to climb up.
I was gonna say it seems too early to do some lore checks. I think I'll.
That's fine. All right. Otherwise, he leads you to the back where the walker is parked, frankly. Quintera has pulled up the tarps from around the legs, and she's doing all of the work that the Sherpas normally do by herself. But the two new Salvax are watching, and she's explaining it to them in like her own limited form of Salvax as she does. And they appear to be following along. And the shaman stops and tells them that she should explain it as they do it instead. And they go and switch up with her, and she...
Oh, they're physical learners, not visual learners.
She directs them to finish getting the walker, like, ready and prepared to go. And gives you a thumbs up as you head past. So it's like quite a steep slope here. You had to make, like, big jutting out steps out of this nearly vertical slope at the back of the village for the walker to sort of travel between on its way down.
Earth shell.
Right, and as you look up, you can see these 4 or 5 earth shells sticking out from the wall here, but from your scale and perspective, from the ground to the level of the nearest shelf is still a good 25 feet. And, there's 5 of them to the top. You've got quite a ways to go. He is a Salvax and is pretty much capable of walking directly up this slope.
Mountain.
Yeah, he's got 6 legs with, either just that he can stab in or with pincer ends that he can clutch on to the terrain here and just go directly up. And, it's going to take some feats to get up here. You can terraform more with Alter. You can use agility checks to climb up. You can use Force Leap to jump. You can jump one with a Force Leap maneuver and then jump another one with a Force Leap maneuver and then ability check to climb up a third one and, make it halfway up.
Is he going to
parkour?
He's going to talk more when you reach the top, probably. So I'll let you.
As we're going.
Yeah, you have to make your way up 5 of these.
Okay.
Kind of thing, and that's sort of you've got various ways to make your way up here. And you've got to make your way up these 5 steps. And then you'll have reached the top of this part of it, and then we'll move on to the next part of the climb, Miss Jinn. So first is the physical challenge. Part 1 is climb up this wall, Narset Jinn.
I think it'll gain more prestige to physically climb it versus flying up. So I will use Force Enhance, but only to increase my coordination skills. And then, yeah, I'll just athletics it because I have 2 greens. But yeah, I'm
Well-
just gonna I'm just gonna bust it. Just fucking climb it like a beast.
Well, to climb up to the first one here, just straight up, it is fairly icy terrain, but you've got, hammer and boots and, even lines and all kinds of stuff on this belt that Kintera has set you up with. She really,
Jon Snow can
she
do
went
it.
suburban
do it.
mom with outfitting you here. It honestly, like, it's a little much. Like, you're not going to need most of this. You're a Jedi Knight. You're not going to need half of what she's got you set up with on this
I'm running on pure adrenaline right now.
on this gear. Yeah, but you've got it all, but just to go up this, it will be average difficulty. With the ice terrain, it's going to add just another purple straight on, so it's going to be 3 purples. You are ignoring one of the 2 setbacks from the cold because of your gear, otherwise, and you're going to ignore any extra black from the actual iciness of, like, going up the terrain because of your booties. So you're going to go with 3 purples and 1 setback. And if you remove that with your talent on top of what your gear is negating, then that'll take care of that. There's no danger here. If you fall from this level, you'll be able to, flip like a cat and land or roll.
I was gonna say, how is there a failure?
You don't succeed at making it up, but unless there's a despair, like, there's no negative, consequence other than you didn't succeed. So,
It's like I take the first step and fall.
yeah, that's why there weren't
Pretty
any,
much.
despairs or anything on this. So, you have 2 light side, so you can turn your 1 failure into 1 success.
Yes, please.
And you don't have to use the dark side points. So you are able to, by drawing on the Force, which you feel all around you on this morning, swirling in confused pattern. We see from the dice here, Miss Jinn. You draw on the light side that you feel around you, and you are able to climb your way up this frozen, rocky, nearly vertical slope. Only the first, 20 or so feet, 25 feet maybe, to the first of these earthen shelves that you made for the walker to scramble its way down when Kintera drove down in a couple of mornings ago. By drawing on the Force, you're able to haul yourself up onto the lip there. And the shaman, he just sort of stays on the wall next to it. He looks over at you and he goes,
Impressive. Impressive for one built such as yourself. However, I remember the ones who went before were capable of many feats. Perhaps if you had abilities such as theirs, you would be able to travel more quickly.
and he continues scrambling up. And it occurs to you that you can, like, leap, easily. Just whoosh, 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 your way up by drawing on the Force, and your Force powers as well.
Like, is that really what he wants?
I mean, he's just
I'm
commenting that, like, it's impressive that you're doing this, certainly, like, but, like, part of what makes
That's fine. That's fine.
like,
I'm not gonna show off. I'm not gonna show off.
Okay,
No,
so
no,
you're
no.
gonna
Instead,
keep
Be
doing
modest.
it the tough route. That's fine. That is absolutely
yeah,
fine.
no. Instead,
Okay.
I want to ask the shaman if he remembers anything more about the previous Jedi who were here. Maybe if he remembers, like, a name that was mentioned, or more of what they physically looked like, or, like, what they may have been looking for now that him and I have a better connection and relationship. Like, can I help the shaman do a lore check or, like, a memory check?
Yes. Absolutely, Narset Jinn. You're going to use your check to help him piece together his memory. So you're going to use your skill, and you're going to get
I was gonna say, like, what skill would?
You're going to use your lore skill. I'm going to let you use your lore skill because he's going to like tell you a story, and then you're going to be able to like piece together like what the actual like meaning of it is in terms of, you know, the galaxy, you know, and your knowledge of history, which is the lore skill. You know what I mean? Because he's not going to have like a frame of reference to be like, oh, well, you know, it was a Celestian and a Quarren, because he doesn't know what they are, but he'll be like, it was like the tentacle beast of the deep, and then you'll be able to put it together or not based on whether your check had succeeded. You know,
The back of his head was like a ball sack. That's
His
universal.
face had a little thing that went kapushka.
You know what I mean? So
It wasn't Zoidberg. I know that guy.
so it's going to be
This
a
thing
hard.
with floppy ass ears.
It's going to be a
It'll
hard.
It'll be like, it was one of those.
It's going to be
Show
a
a
hard
picture.
lore check for you to, you know, and then
Okay, let's
you'll
do this shit.
you'll make the check, and then we'll tell a story that either makes, you know, has enough details or not for you to, you know, get information or not from it based on whether you've succeeded.
What color is a hard?
Hard is just 3 purple.
3 purples.
Another one of them 3 purple checks with a triumphant 2 successes and 2 threats.
Fuck yeah.
You take 2 strain from chilling here on the side of this cliff
2
instead
out of
of
15.
continuing up. But you have 2 successes and a triumph, so you're going to get information about both of the Jedi, and with a triumph, you'll get
Oh, the lore.
not all the lore, but a juicy bit that you weren't going to get until maybe the top of this cliff or whatever. You know,
At
what I
least part of a name for a triumph.
I think that would be very along the lines.
I'd rather
of
know what
exactly
they were
I was-
looking for.
You know,
At the moment, I'm more interested as to like what they were looking for volcano-wise. That they were like, oh yeah, this is like a blah blah blah, or to like what originally brought them to the planet. Versus like if I find out their names, then once we go back to whatever a Jedi database, I could be like, who is blah blah blah.
Turns
But
out
I
Master
think I'd
Hightower
rather-
was a famous blank researcher, you know?
Exactly. I think I'd rather find out more about why they were at the planet originally rather than who they specifically were. But I'm not the DM.
yeah. Let me tell you what he tells you, keeping the triumph in mind. As you shiver, he says,
Last night I thought of those who came before you, as I thought of other things. They left, and they did not return themselves, but another returned in their place. This is why I agreed for our Sherpas to journey back as well. While none who left with Crab Drogo returned themselves, others. It is something. It is something. Just as those who came before you eventually stopped, but you have come in their stead. There were 2 of your Jedi who came many years ago, and they stayed a little while before they decided that the factory above
and he jabs his staff towards the mountaintop.
would not affect our village and the island, and left. However, the younger returned. She stayed along Clyde, where she could survey ourselves and the factory. She, too, stopped coming.
He peers at you, and he says,
She was somewhat like you. Similar hair.
he gestures. Then he moves the tip of his scepter down. He says,
And similar lines on her face. However, she was more suited to the terrain.
he gestures towards the sea out over his shoulder. He just turns and points straight out towards the deep ocean while he's standing on the wall. He says,
She was more akin to the ocean there. I will show you to her place as we journey forward. It would be proper, since you have returned.
he's going to take you to her spot on the way up. I decided that with the triumph, instead of making you have to find it, he's going to take you straight there. But I don't want to, like, drop the real juice until you get there.
Still trying to figure out what species looks humanoid but lives in the fucking water.
No, he just meant that her skin was blue. He gestured out towards the ocean. Skin like the ocean.
But with similar lines
skin,
on
white.
her face.
Yep. Blue skin, white hair, lines on the face. And then he
Interesting.
says,
Come, you must climb.
and he just keeps scuttling upward. So you got 4 more checks to make. It's going to be another hard athletics check. And then after this second one, we're going to start upgrading the difficulty. And then increasing it as well as the terrain changes here. But it's just another, it's a hard climb, but, the force is with you and, balance to your task almost exactly equally at this point. So,
Same roll as before.
yes, it is. And you've been up here for a while now. The cold is starting to seep in. And you take just 1 point of strain from those threat as successfully you scramble across. But unless you want to, I guess you can negate the advantage with your positive force die, or you can negate those threat if you want by turning your light side points into advantage. Otherwise, I'm going to use them to have you drop your hammers as you climb up here. So
That should
okay.
convert the convert the light side points.
Okay, cool. So it gets a little hairy there. One of your climbing hammers wedges into the face of the rock as you're partway up to the next ledge that you'd created. But as it falls, you twist and stop it there and reach out and grab it with your hand and continue your way up to the second ledge. You take 2 strain from the 2 remaining threat from the continued chill as you make your way up. And you've got 3 more of these ledges to go. And the third one here, the edge had crumbled away as the walker had made its way down the face. And it doesn't look nearly as stable as what you're standing on now. But before you start climbing, you can, of course, try to shore things up, or
I was gonna say, can I make a
change tactics or
check
whatever.
for it?
A coordination check instead? Sure. You want to try to, do some flips over there instead of just climbing and
Tomb Raider shit.
parkour your way? Okay.
Good hardcore parkour it, yeah.
Hardcore
Yeah.
parkour!
Okay, excellent.
And
It is going to be a red and 2 purples. There is a stack of setbacks, but the various equipment and minus 2 setbacks that you had on your skills had been handling up to this point. Do you still subtract a setback from your coordination checks like you did with your agility check?
yes.
You do?
1 set.
Okay, because that's coming from a force power, right? And it probably applies to both of them. All right, so you don't have any
My
setbacks.
coordination.
All of your setbacks are canceled out by various things that are going on. The difficulty is a red and 2 purples. Because if you fall, it could be disastrous. But you don't. You've got another
Don't.
success and enough light side to cancel out the threat and then some. As you nimbly, this time instead of climbing and almost losing your tool, you do some flips and stuff. I was going to have you force run along the wall, Cal Kestis style.
Yeah.
Up to the next one, and the shaman looks over and he goes,
Yes, that was more like what she could do. She was able to run up and down this wall nimbly without any of this.
and he gestures to the steps you made.
As she grew, before she left us, she was able to fly up 1 leap.
And he continues climbing. He's comparing you to the types of, he says,
She made the climb many times, hardened herself in the cold and the fire of our world.
you've got 2 more steps to go here, Narset, to get to the top. How are you going to handle the next one?
This bitch has nothing more helpful to say. I'm just gonna make an altar portal and I'm just gonna teleport myself from where I am.
I love it. You're not going to
I'm not even gonna.
You're going to use the altar Night
Fuck
Sister portal cheese instead. Hell yeah.
His old
Go
Jedi
ahead
couldn't do
and
I was
that.
gonna meet him at the.
So
I was gonna meet him at the top.
the discipline,
Like whatever, old man.
you're going to roll your force die and the discipline, and the difficulty of the check is going to be to have it be right as he comes. You know what I mean? Like, it's the targeting is what the success is, because you can make the portal guaranteed with your force part of it. The difficulty is going to be a hard discipline check with your force die
It's
to
not too
have
bad.
it be like that you are literally standing right where, you know, he pops his head up. But other than that, you're going to be fine. You know what I mean? So I know you got force die on force die. So
Said it was.
it's a hard discipline check plus your force die
It was just-
to run the altar portal thing, which is like a couple of pips to activate, and then you succeed and take one strain, another from the cold, and you portal out, and you are standing there. Is the portal still glowing behind you, showing like the bay, you know, that's behind him as he climbs up, or do you disappear it? Because he climbs up.
There
and
will still be. There's still a glowing green fire portal behind me, but not where I was on the wall.
Okay, he can't
So
see.
he's like
he
saying
can't
this
see
sentence.
through it out
He sees
into
a green
the
glow, and then he sees another green glow.
cool, and he
True Nightcrawler teleportation, just.
Awesome.
He is suitably nodding, and he goes,
This was the first of the challenges that the Salvax faced.
when they decide to
Bitch
climb
doesn't
again.
say anything. You just like
No, he
one
nods
sentence.
and he's like, good, you know, good. It's amazing, but like, you know, good. You're climbing away, you know, like.
See, I thought that would have been cheating the whole fucking time. Whatever.
No, you're
Fine.
Using
you're-
your powers.
you're doing it as you
Thought that was cheating.
kind of thing. He's got a stick and he's wearing a cape. He's not doing it naked, you know.
Yeah.
Spiky crab legs, but go on.
Yeah, he has spiky crab legs and you don't, and you can teleport and he can't. So he's not going to ask you to teleport because you're not going to ask him to do it on two legs, right? That's kind of that's where he's been
His
coming
next
at
challenge.
it from. Is that like this is going to get harder
A
anyway? So
handstand.
whatever you can do, yeah. Like if he had any things, he would have said it before you went out. You know, instead he was kind of like, okay, you could do that, like, but let's see what you can do, because he's walking up it, you know. And if you're like gonna climb it hard, he's like, okay, cool, you're doing it, but I don't think we're gonna make it all the way to the top, you know. So if you could fly up this, he'd be like, okay, cool, because I could walk up it, so let's go. You know, he goes, and he gestures down. He goes,
This was the first of the challenges for those of us who lived at the bottom. We thought the sky ended here at the edge of the lip. We could barely see the peak above, but crabs tried the edge. They found only this frozen wilderness.
and he gestures towards the glacial fields whipped with ice that you traveled over with the walker, with those lizard beasts on it. And then in the distance, every once in a while, with the wind moving the snow and the clouds, you can see the peak and the towers of the factory up there. He goes,
Even in the days of my youth, when I only traveled this far along the climb, we could see the peak glowing blue day and night with the fires of the mountain.
Blue volcano.
Dope.
Crabs traveled here and toughened themselves for the climb above. Many crabs tried these fields before finally Salva returned to show us the way through. Are you ready to take these paths with me without your walking crab?
and he gestures down at the walker that's like waiting at the bottom of the slope.
Since I'm at a pretty low.
You can take rest and restore. You did an encounter there, so you should take a cool or a discipline check to recover your strain before you move on.
I want to do that while my numbers are low.
And if you want to
I'd rather
commit,
start.
you
start
should
at
do
a
that
0
after
then.
every round of this. That's an encounter, so you're gonna recover. So roll either cool or discipline against nothing, and recover strain equal to your successes. And if you want to like commit force die to any of your powers or do a thing to like alter the terrain, because it's very windy and stormy right now, and remember that among your power set is the ability to literally affect the weather, in an area defined by how much force power you generate, you know. So you didn't get any successes, just advantages. So it's too cold up here, even with your North Space jacket, to like really like rest and regain yourself here right at the edge of this like open cliff. Narset.
Can I drink? Can I drink a
An electrolyte
Arctic
pouchy.
power?
Yeah, she packed you some
Electrolyte
Powerades.
pouchy, yeah.
So you have
I'm gonna
four
write
of
that
the
down, 'cause
Capri.
that
You have
is better.
4 of these Capri Sun, Narset, and only 4 of them.
Three twin sons.
Nice.
Capri Twin Sun. Yes. You drink a Capri Twin Sun, and you now feel liquid cool,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you regain 4 strength.
Then yeah, contains liquid cool.
Contains
Cool,
trace
yeah,
amounts of
crystal
Tabana gas.
That's what makes it go fizz.
Oh, Jesus.
What's next? Let's go.
All right, so it's going to be basically a multi-day journey across these ice fields that you went with the crab walker. So we're going to make a survival check roll to see how the leg of the journey goes here, and whether you encounter any vicious lizzies or whether you're able to traverse the terrain adroitly or not. It's going to be a hard check for the first leg here.
Come on, Narset.
Oh shit!
So
Tells me something's about to go down.
Feels
Say
like
we didn't make that roll.
you didn't. You head directly. Now you recall that when you were on your way over this mountain the first time, even while you were inside a walker that was specially modified for exploration in like not necessarily hospitable environments, you still needed to use the force to slow down the intensity of these storms before you guys took the walker in safely. And heedless to that, because the shaman just leans on his staff and puts his shoulder into the wind and walks directly into what is just a blinding wall of galing snow, you follow him, and you are immediately buffeted by freezing cold winds roaring up the windward side of this island, over these glacial fields, and across the top here. It is intensely, intensely cold as you stumble into the storm, losing vision to only a few meters in front of you, almost immediately in the blinding light. You lose sight of the shaman.
Uh-oh.
And, well, you've got plenty of, like, ability with yourself, so I'm going to allow you to react to the situation of getting lost, before, you know what I mean? Because you've got force powers galore.
I know.
to,
I was gonna
like,
say. I
react to
definitely
this
am gonna
as you
use
head
the
in.
duration
So it's
skill for
really
all-
bad, but like, yeah, as soon as it happens, yeah, you can react to it in various ways. So you're going with the altar.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I'm
Because you
gonna.
didn't have threat there, but you've mega failed at just walking into it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start sort of like channeling the force, and then bring my hands together. Start waving them around in the direction that the sort of like the blizzard winds are going, and then create a sort of clear
Make a force power
atmospheric
check to
shell.
see how many force pips you have, so we can see, how much and far you can activate this, for around you.
You're generating
Basically.
a
My
second eye of
range-
the storm.
Have a medium range.
With it's a let's say you're so it's force die and discipline. You had 4 failures heading into this storm. It's especially intense, I'm going to flip a destiny point. I'm going to say the difficulty of your discipline check is a red and 3 purples. 2.
Damn.
Because the
Say I
force
wasn't
is
trying to fuck up the-
extremely with Narset Jinn.
Shit!
You know what I mean? So you
What I was expecting.
you
Nice.
you can take a strain or not, but you have the ability to turn completely impassable terrain that requires a check to make it through into terrain that you can just move through normally, which would be
Thank you.
making an eye of the storm above you, and you can make the extend the range that happens around you out to a larger range, and then you can pin it to yourself by committing a die. So go ahead and look at your altar power sheet.
So we'll commit the die.
You're going to commit a die, excellent. But look at what it costs to undo that. So it's 1 point to activate altar. How many points is it to turn off the impassable terrain?
2.
Okay, so that's bringing you up to 3, and then you commit a die to make it permanent, and you've got 2 more, so you can boost out the range. So you can now see almost out to long range around you, and you can commit a die.
Say, you
which
shouldn't
means
be too far away from me.
No, but if you're committing a die, you're going to have it come with you, and then that'll remove that die from feature force checks that you make while it is pinned to you.
So
but
it'll be-
that's why the range of it also matters, because that's going to be how far out you can see, around you when you're doing things. So, yeah, you do your swirly, and extremely successfully, you see a second eye of this storm begin to form in pair with the one above the factory. And now you can see out quite a distance into this craggy, warrenous glacial field. And you see that the shaman has stopped just at the edge of where all of these glaciers begin that you're going to have to make your way into, and was waiting for you to catch up there before proceeding. And he's looking up at the fact that the weather has turned off, just around, and looks over at you, and waits for you to approach. And he nods and he says,
That is quite impressive.
Badass.
It will make things easier, but it will still be quite a climb. Come with me this way.
all right, you've got way more climb to do, Narset Jinn, but we're going to leave you here and get back to you because we've got other guys to get to this session. It'll be many days' journey, so we'll handle that, by popping back in as the clock moves forward, sort of, instead of covering it minute by minute. A lot of walking across the Shire.
We're still in Farmer Maggot's crop. I know, I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
we're past Farmer Maggot's crop.
Frozen.
The farthest
yeah.
away from home we've ever been.
Yeah. I mean, you
Exactly.
could flavor that whole walking across the snow however you want, Legolas. You know what I mean? He's also ignoring impassable terrain. When they're all slogging their way up the mountain and he's just on top of it.
The snow.
Yeah. Like, what do you guys mean? This is great for my hair. I look fantastic up here. All right. So we leave you shivering on the side of, the mountain.
Everest.
And we return to Fishtown after a commercial break.